Hey Beaker Middle School, and welcome to the November edition of What's New in the Library. This month I want to talk to you about novels in verse. Now first let's talk about what that means. A novel in verse is a book written in poem form. So if you look on the inside, the book is actually written in poems. And a lot of kids come in and they're like, I want a really short book, and they think a novel in verse is going to be that. Well, sometimes novel in verses are very short. A lot of times they are very big. The important thing about a novel in verse is that it's not just little amount of words per page. It's actually written in a poem, and it has beautiful lyrical prose to it. Now, the thing about a novel in verse is a lot of kids think they're easy, and they are not always easy. As a matter of fact, a lot of times they're more complicated than a regular book because you have to use your brain to figure out what's happening because it's not just spit out at you, it's told in a poem, and you have to really analyze the book and figure out what's going on. So the first one I want to talk to you about this month is Glimpse. This is the story of two sisters who are really close. They're born just a year apart, and they know everything about each other. No secrets. They are so close. And one day, one of the sisters walks in on the other sister trying to kill herself, and she wonders what she missed. The sister who was trying to kill herself gets put into an institution for people with mental disorders, and she won't talk to anyone. She becomes an elective mute. And so the two sisters are left very far apart with a lot left to learn. So this is Glimpse. Very good book, found in our realistic fiction section and young adult. Also, you'll see this verse novel sticker right here. This sticker is on all the novels in verse in our library, so you can find them really easily by looking for that sticker. The next one is a book I absolutely love. It won the National Book Award and the Newbery Honor Book. This book is called Brown Girl Dreaming, and it's almost like a memoir, which is a book about somebody's life, because it's by Jacqueline Woodson, and it's about her life, except she adds some to it, so that's what makes it fiction. It's called Brown Girl Dreaming, and it's the story of her growing up in South Carolina right after the Civil Rights Movement and what it was like to be an African-American girl growing up at that time who really didn't think she could be anything, but she was on the cusp of being able to do anything she wanted to do because the Civil Rights Movement had happened and given her the ability to be anything. So really great book. Absolutely taught me so much about what it was like growing up at that time. So technically it's historical fiction, but we don't have that section in our library, so you can find it in the realistic fiction section. This is Brown Girl Dreaming. And the last one I'm going to show you is called The Day Before, and this one's in our romance section. It's written by Lois Schroeder, who has written tons of verse novels. A lot of her books are in our romance section in their verse novels. This one's called The Day Before. It's about a girl who meets a boy who acts like it's the last day of his life. I mean, he's crazy. He wants to do everything, live everything, and it just draws her to him. She feels like he's amazing because of that. Well, the more the day goes on, and most of it does take place over the course of one day, the more the day goes on, the more she falls in love with him and discovers that maybe there's a reason he's living like it's the last day of his life. So this one's called The Day Before. We have many more great verse novels in our library. Like you've heard me say verse novel or novels in verse. They're called the same thing. And you can look them up in Destiny Quest by just typing in verse novel or novel in verse, and you'll find a bunch. I really recommend this type of reading. It's really cool watching, kind of reading them and letting your brain figure out what's happening because you're having to analyze the poetry. So awesome stuff this month. Let's hear what a couple of kids have been reading.
Trying to show you guys the book called The Dainty Treasures and the Enchanted Crystal. This book is about when Dantidium and Treasures trying to stop a villain named Danton. He was trying to steal a enchanted crystal, and Treasures and Dantidium are trying to stop him from destroying the world.
His name is Ares, and he fights with the other gods. Zeus just watches, and he fights the goddess that in battle she helps them with what to do, and Iris is the one who reads wrong. It is from the ancient Greece, and he's fighting the Trojan. It's a comic book, and you should read it.
Lots of great new books in this month. This one is called Us in Progress, and this is a bunch of short stories about young Latinos growing up in America. The next one is called Ringer. This is book 2 to Gemma, a science fiction book where you can read either the one side of the book, then the other side, or you can read one chapter, then a chapter from the other side, kind of an interesting series. So if you're going to read this one, definitely talk to Miss Parker about it. She'll explain it. But if you've already read Gemma, then you would love Ringer. This one is called Beyond Magenta, and it's going to be in our narrative nonfiction section, and it's just stories about transgender teens growing up in America. We also got in Dork Diaries, Book 12, and a new young adult realistic fiction, Still Life with Tornado. Book 2 to Double Cross, this is The Inside Job. Books 2 and 3 to The Blood Guard. Then we have The Glass Gauntlet and The Blazing Bridge. We got in a new graphic novel, All's Fair in Middle School. We also got in a new Plants vs. Zombies series section. A new book by Mary Dunningham. This one looks like a creepy ghost story. It's One for Sorrow. And finally, the long-awaited sequel to Sunny Side Up. We have Swing It Sunny. Well, that's it for the November edition of What's New in the Library. I hope you found a great new book that you want to read this month. Make sure you take some good books with you on Thanksgiving break because you're going to get tired from eating all that turkey and you're going to want to lay down on the couch and read a good book. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Have a great November.